You know, when it comes to your studio, one of the interesting things about your relationship with Metallica, in my opinion, is that during the making of Ride the Lightning, they slept in your studio instead of getting a hotel.
Yeah.
And they slept during the day and recorded at night. Something along those lines?
No, it was just, in those days, the studios were pretty booked. So we had, like, as a standard, we had a 10 to 6 schedule and then a 1 hour changeover and then 7 till basically we should be done before 9 because then the morning engineer came in. But we could work. The good thing about working at night was that you could actually work as long as you wanted. But you'd still only pay for one session. So they actually got a few more hours out of that. And I mean, most musicians are used to working at night. I sent Kirk to the showers once because he smelled. I think the first song we actually did on Ride the Lightning was the Ride the Lightning song, but I'm not sure. But it was either that or Creeping Death. It was one of the really long songs. Remember that choir thing where they shout "die" and we overdubbed that tons of times. And I sent them all in there. And I was, at one point, we'd done like 5 or 6 takes, and they came in and had a listen. I think we should do some more. And I kind of instructed Lars to say, on this take, because I knew that Cliff was just faking it. He wasn't singing. So I said to everybody, on this take, just fake it, just so we can hear whether Cliff is singing or not. And they went in and no sound came out. So I was like, Cliff, you fuck. So yeah, but I mean.
That's hilarious. Why wasn't Cliff singing?
Because he didn't like the sound of his voice. I don't know. Maybe he thought he couldn't sing. He's a bass player. You never know what happens in the minds of a bass player.
So at what point did you realize that the band was going to be huge?
During recording of Ride the Lightning. Already then I knew this was going to be something special. I couldn't be sure that they would, that they would actually make it, but it didn't really matter because I thought the music and the sound and everything was so good that no matter what, that I knew this was going to be an album I would be proud of. So yeah, sometime halfway through Ride the Lightning.
So when it comes to the recording process for Ride the Lightning, from what I understand, you recorded Lars's drum parts in a warehouse?
Yeah, also on Master of Puppets, yeah.
Was there any particular reason why you chose the warehouse to record his drum parts?
To get a really good drum ambience, to get the sound to be as loud as possible. And on all the albums we did, there was this mantra called no reverb. So instead of using reverb, I just recorded the sounds of the rooms we recorded in. Because that way you get some depth in the stereo picture. So we used a lot of room mics and stuff. That's why I put him in that room. It was a bit of a challenge because I think it was cold winter and we had to heat the room. It was like freezing outside. So we had these gas heated that kind of heated the room, which meant that we had to get a guy in and tune the drums all the time. But, it turned out good. So there you go.
So in terms of your relationship with Lars, from what I understand, you essentially gave Lars drumming lessons during Ride the Lightning. Is this correct?
Yeah, that's actually true. That comes from Lars being from a jazz background. Because I can't be sure about this, but I'm pretty sure that Lars's focus with Metallica was on doing all these great fills. So I think the way Lars saw the songs was, I have this fill that goes, then it's, and then this fill comes in. And I think he never gave it much thought that, what happens between the fills, you have to be fucking steady and there have to be an equal length between the kick and the snare and all this stuff. So yeah, me and Jake, his real name is also Flemming, but his drum roadie at the time, who was a drummer for a Danish band called Maltese Falcon, I think. We kind of, told him, then you go boom, boom, took his leg, and when you do this, and then you do this with the snare, and they have to be, and I don't think he ever thought about that. He just thought about putting energy into the song. So basically he played like a jazz drummer. You listen to what everybody else is doing, you do something that fits in, fine. Next song.
That's funny. And so how did he develop as a drummer from Ride the Lightning to Injustice?
Well, all of them actually developed tremendously, and it was a huge development, both in their playing skills but also in their songwriting. In my opinion, they got better and better musicians from album to album. But with Metallica, we've always set the bar really high. Actually, they've always aimed to do stuff they couldn't do. So actually, they're always pushing themselves to be better and better, and it was like that with all the albums I've done. And basically, they weren't able to perform their own songs because they were too difficult, but we got it on tape anyway, which is a great way to develop as a musician, and just basically get your chops together. So yeah, I mean they've developed tons during that, and even also with the songwriting. I mean, in my opinion, they've gotten better and better at songwriting as well throughout their whole life. So, yeah, they developed a lot.
So, Flemming, when you first started working with Metallica, essentially they reached out to you. How did that all come together?
It was Lars calling up, as far as I recall, asking whether I would be interested in doing a metal band from San Francisco. And I went, yeah, great. I mean, but you're Danish, so what, So they had kind of done the math and figured out that for the same amount of money they would pay for a week in a studio in the States, and they were not happy with the sound on Kill 'Em All, they could get 2 weeks in Europe. Plus, they could then go and do some shows and actually make money to do the album, because they were on an independent label. They didn't have like a label backup. So they wanted to tour, record more. And they, as far as I've been told, they've heard about me because of the job I did with Rich Blackmore. And I think they sat down and heard some of the albums I've done. And then they decided, well, that's what we're doing. We're going to go to Europe, we're going to record the album. And at the same time, or during that, they got Q Prime as management. So they started looking for major record label deals. But, I mean, basically they just called and asked if I was interested. And I said, yes, sure. And we actually started the process out once they got to the studio and we needed to start recording. We actually started out by listening to Kill 'Em All because there's the famous break-in incident in their live truck. So they get most of their equipment stolen. And James had a modified Marshall amp that he really likes. And, of course, nobody knew what the modification was. So we actually listened to Kill 'Em All a couple of times and some of the guitar sounds. So I got a pretty good picture of what the band was all about before we started. We did a session in the studio where we got everybody that I knew on the metal scene then, which was kind of just starting out, but people that had good Marshall gear. I had them bring all their amps and all their cabinets to the studio, and James would play them all and figure out which one he wanted to record on.
One of the songs on that album that sticks out to me is Fade to Black. Do you remember recording that particular song?
Yeah, I actually do, because I really like it too, and that was one of the songs that, in my memory, that didn't take that long to record, because I think they all really liked it, so they all played it really well. But yeah, obviously it took the time it should. But yeah, it's a good song. I like it.
For me, one of the reasons that song sticks out on that record is that it's very different in a lot of ways from the other tracks on Ride the Lightning. It's the band's first ever power ballad. For that reason, was the band apprehensive at all about recording Fade to Black?
Not to my recollection, no. I think Cliff was probably involved in the songwriting of that big time. I could imagine Fade to Black. I haven't seen the credits, but I would imagine that all that was Cliff, and they kind of, said, well, yeah, you let yourself rip. But no, I've no apprehensions about that. They were more like, there was some discussions whether or not, what is it? Is it Escape? That was like that kind of commercial song.
Escape's the one.
Yeah, that was, because that was kind of their giveaway to get a major label deal, that they recorded that so that, if eventually they could have a single. It's never been released as a single, I think, but that was kind of what they thought. We'll do this shorter song, which has like a singable riff to it, and which was more like what everybody else was doing in the 80s. That was what we discussed, not the other stuff. No, not Fade to Black at all. That we kind of just went, yeah, that's cool, let's get going with that.
Another one of the great songs on Ride the Lightning is For Whom the Bells Toll. How did you guys get that bell sound specifically?
I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's Lars hitting an anvil with a metal hammer. And then we sped it down so it sounded like a bell. But, I mean, they have the tape, so obviously they use that sound for the live shows. But it's either that or we took it off some effects album, and which was a vinyl then. You buy it and then you have the right to use it on. But I'm pretty sure, because the studio was on the first floor, and we carried that anvil up to the first floor, and it was like seriously heavy. And Lars was banging away on it. It was actually it was one of the funny moments when we did that album. Lars hitting the anvil. No, not on one, Lars, on two. What the fuck is two? He just put it where he felt for it. Lars is grown up in a jazz family, so Lars' playing is, he always when he plays, he listens to what everybody else is doing and fits in. People saying Lars is a bad drummer, I think people who says that kind of exclude themselves, in my opinion, because they don't know what they're talking about. It's like people saying Ringo Starr is a bad drummer. They have no idea. I don't know what that is all about. It's probably people who play instrument themselves and think they're technically good. But, that's not what it's about. It's about playing music. And if you don't have that musical mind, you can be as technically good as you want. If you can't play with other people, you're fucked.
Do you remember Cliff ever playing any instruments in the studio aside from the bass?
I have this vision of him playing an acoustic guitar, but it could be just me imagining it. Not on tape, anyway. He only played bass on tape, so. But I'm pretty sure he was sitting with you have guitars lying around in the studio everywhere, and I'm pretty sure he picked one up.